to the November 19th regularly scheduled Board of Selectmen meeting. One of the three selectmen, John Clemency, is participating remotely tonight on this phone right here. Say hi to the audience, John.
Hey, folks, I'm here.
Okay.
I'm in attendance.
We recognize his voice and validate the fact that it is John.
Great.
As we usually do, we welcome public input for items that are not on the agenda. Emphasize not on the agenda. Does anyone want to come up to the podium and talk about something that's not on the agenda? Hearing none, we're going to go to announcement.
Oh, we have a hand back there.
Where's the hand? Oh, come on. Oh, John. I believe
yes.
I missed your hand.
See my hand. Sorry. I'm waving.
No, different John.
John Fallon, 233 Main. I just want to go on record to say that the fees that the town want us to pay for the fingerprinting, I think, is an overreach because we've already paid it once. So we've already, had our fingerprints done. They're done electronically, so they haven't changed. So I think, Harry, if just even for me, but for any of the licensees, liquor license or what have you.
I hear you, John.
So.
And that we'll take up a policy review later, but we can't do anything tonight.
Okay. Just wanted to get on the record.
You got it. You're on the record. It'll be in the minutes.
All right.
We'll send you a copy.
Thank you.
I agree with you, too. So, do you want to say something? Yes? Oh, no.
No.
You have your pen up there. It looked like it was...
Mr. Chairman?
No.
Yes.
Just a quick point of order. If you can ask our remote participant to mute himself when he's not speaking, because the feedback will show up over the microphone and it'll make for a rough audio recording.
John, do you hear that?
Yes.
Would you do that, please?
Thank you.
John?
Yes. What did you want me to do?
Mute yourself.
When you're not speaking.
When you're not
yes.
speaking. In both feet. Just kidding. Mute yourself when you're not speaking, so there's no echo in the room or whatever is annoying people.
Okay. Sorry.
Oh, you didn't know it. All righty. I think we can go to the announcements now. The Essex North Shore School Committee representative. The town of Wenham is seeking a representative to the Essex North Shore Agricultural and Technical School Committee. Wow. The committee meets the second Thursday of each month, or as the Irish say, Thursday. Please submit a letter of interest directly to Trudy Reed, our town moderator, at nrobuck, R-O-E-B-U-C-K, at wenhammass.gov, or call the town administrator's office at 978-468-5520, extension 2, with any questions, or visit the town website for more information, including committee bylaws and a direct link to the website for past meeting agenda minutes. So we were talking about this prior to the meeting, and I guess that we would pass on to our town moderator, Trudy Reed, whomever the applicants are for this. To date, we have one already who is interested in this position. And then it goes to the school committee, correct?
Right, it's a joint appointment with the town moderator and the Hamilton Wenham School Committee.
And the Wenham members of the school committee.
Right, the Wenham members of the Hamilton Wenham School Committee.
Right, so anybody interested in that? And by the way, I think we should thank Bill Nichols, who was last appointed 22 years ago to this committee, and thank you for your service all this time, for 22 years. Much appreciated. Thank you. The Town Hall Thanksgiving holiday hours will be open as usual on Thanksgiving. No, I read the wrong line.
Yeah,
So
you sure
that,
did. You got a mutiny happening here. Can you imagine people rushing in the room?
Town Hall will be closing on Wednesday, November 27th, Thanksgiving at 2 p.m. and reopen on Monday, December 2nd, as usual at 9 a.m. And everyone hopefully will enjoy their Thanksgiving. On Saturday, wreaths across America. On Saturday, December 14th at noon, as we did last year, and it was the same day, the town of Wenham will lay wreaths on our veterans' graves simultaneously at the main cemetery with participants at Arlington National Cemetery and communities across the nation. Please help by sponsoring a wreath for $15, volunteering, or inviting friends to help. To learn more about our Wreaths Across America, including a link to the online donations for wreaths in Wenham, visit the homepage at the town website. I'm looking around. I thought I saw somebody before. So this was a great event last year. It was the first year we did it. I represented the Air Force, by the way, and that it was a day in, I think it was the high 60s, low 70s. It was a wonderful day for December, and that we had the Boy Scouts, the Girl Scouts, lots of people attending, and that we laid, I wish I knew exactly the number of wreaths. That was, I think it was something like 150, and that this year we're hoping to lay wreaths in all of the veterans' graves from the French and Indian Wars all the way through the latest war. I think it's something on the order of 450 wreaths, and that so the fundraising has been going well, and we would encourage people who have not given yet to give. Just write a check out to the town of Wenham and pass it in at the finance desk right here, and simply put in the memo section of your check, Wreaths Across America, and that way your donation would be well received.
Jack, may I just add something to that? Because I'm noticing that we're not going to meet again, and there are deadlines for those donations. Is it okay if I just read those? The checks, in the form of a check, the deadline is November 25th. I think that's next week. And online, there's an online way to donate, and that deadline is a little later, Monday, December 2nd. So get those donations in soon. That's my little plug. That's all. Thank you.
Yep. Okay. Now, this is our second meeting going electronically, so let's see.
And we don't have a section for reports in here.
Oh, I could have gone to this section right here. I didn't do that.
What's that?
We don't have a section for reports.
Yeah.
There's no,
There's not,
in yours.
Yeah.
Because I emailed this to you separately.
no.
Reports. Up there, Jack.
This is town administrator.
Thank you, Jack. So, just a,
I've got written notes. I've got my iPad in front of me. I've got the people to my right and whispering. How about this? And,
I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Just because that wasn't there,
Yes,
there was no page. You were never going to find that
Yeah.
page.
That was welcome addition. All right.
it's a work in progress. We're getting there. So my report is in the packet that's online, but I just a few things that I wanted to highlight. The LED lighting project, which was made possible through a Green Communities grant of $127,000 plus. All the buildings have been done, with this building being the last to be retrofitted for LED lights. As you can see, these actually can go much brighter. The LED is a lot brighter than the conventional lighting, but we're hoping to see a cost savings through all the town buildings of $19,000. And also, it really reduces our carbon footprint by 111,000 kilowatt hours. So it was a great grant, and producing those types of savings is fantastic for the community. This past Saturday, we had the Wenham Congressional Town Hall with Congressman Seth Moulton was here. We had an opportunity for some local appointed and elected officials to meet with the congressman for half an hour before. I thought that went very well. And then we had about 50 to 60 turnout for the at 3 o'clock in this room. So good turnouts of some great questions, and we're appreciative of Congressman Moulton bringing this to Wenham. And the last thing that I want to do is I want to welcome our newest employee in town, Sherry LeBlanc. Sherry comes to us from the town of North Andover, where we pilfered from our friends over there. But Sherry's going to be the Assistant Treasurer Collector and the Payroll and Benefits Coordinator. Sherry's here, so I'll just call her up to the podium just so the board can see your face with the name.
And the whole community now knows your face.
Yes.
I do have a perfect office for that. Thank you very much, Town Administrator, Selectmen. It was great meeting you. I know I didn't get a chance to meet John, who's on the phone, but I just wanted to say incredibly grateful to be here. I live born and raised in Beverly, so this commute is much better for me, and I believe with all my experience, I've been in Salem for the City of Salem. I worked as payroll coordinator, then I was the assistant treasurer there, so I think with my experience, hopefully it'll be a smooth transition within the finance department.
Great.
So thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, welcome.
Thank you.
Happy to have you here.
Thank you.
Very happy.
And one last thing, this being Patty's official last meeting with us as the finance director, I just want to thank her on behalf of the town and myself for everything that you've done for the town, Patty, for the last year. It was truly a pleasure working with you, and wish it could have been longer, but I understand how these things happen, so, but thank you for your service.
Thank you very much.
Very much. We'll miss you.
And that's it. Do you want a paper agenda to follow?
No, it's okay.
All right.
I might
You
jump
could
around.
change your mind.
All right, go on to new business.
Consent agenda.
Consent agenda.
have
We
none.
have no consent
It's
agenda
a new
tonight.
business.
Okay, I consent to the consent agenda. All right. Next, we have the audit committee. We have, it's a three-person committee. Yours truly is a member. Rich Jones is a member. We've both been a member for several years, and we have a vacancy. And we've been searching for somebody for quite a while. And we found somebody, actually a neighbor of mine, Marty Croyle, who's agreed to serve in this committee, a three-person committee. He's a CPA and owned his own accounting practice and auditing practice and merged with a larger firm recently. So we're pleased that he's been willing to join us, and that it's not too heavy lifting usually, because the audit goes very smoothly, or it has anyway, under our finance director and the town accountant and others. So the appointment starts July 1st of this past year and ends June 20th, 2020. So I'll read the motion and move that the Board of Selectmen appoint Martin W. Croyle to the Audit Committee for a term beginning November 19th, 2019, and ending June 30th, 2020.
I'll second that.
Any further comment? All in favor? Aye.
Roll call.
Aye.
Roll call, John. Okay, aye.
Aye.
Catherine,
Aye.
yes.
Okay, three of us, Madam Clerk. Okay, that was that one. Okay, you want to do the public hearing?
I think you
Well,
have
it's
one
the
more.
interim finance director. Last meeting, Mr. Chairman, we had, just need to sew this up with a more formal motion, so I included the motion up there, appointing Chris as the interim finance director.
I got it. Okay, I have to scroll about 5 screens.
Yeah, and actually, that's a different one than you have on your screen.
Yeah, I did change it. Yeah, if you
one's
can
the
read
right-
the one on the screen, that's,
That's the difficult one.
Well,
because
okay.
they change the whole thing.
I can read that one. We are promoting, on an interim basis, our town accountant, Chris Holak. So I'll move the motion, move that the Board of Selectmen appoint Christopher J. Holak, who's not here right now, as interim finance director effective November 25th, Thanksgiving, through June 30th, 2020, at a grade 6 with an hourly rate of $40.24.
I'll second that.
A roll call. John?
Aye.
Aye.
Yes.
Aye. So I have a commentary on that, and that, let's not talk lately about, we had this under a classification called reorganization in our last meeting, but going back, and we're losing Patty after tomorrow, I guess, this week, Friday, noontime, something like that, okay. We've had a lot of turnover in our finance department over the last 5 or 6 years. Many of you remember Sarah Johnson, who was with us a long time. She left us for 2 reasons. One, she was working 70, 80 hours a week and was substantially underpaid. She left for another job where she had to work in normal hours and was paid a lot more money. Subsequent to her leaving, the selectmen at the time, our predecessors decided they would outsource the finance department director's job to 2 people from the town of Uxbridge who had full-time employees of the town, but they would come here at 5 or 6 o'clock at night and fill in. That didn't work out, and indeed they had some problems with the DOR in Uxbridge, and that. So when I got on the board, I convinced who was ever on the board at the time that we should at least go back to hiring a full-time director. We did. We hired a full-time director, Angel Wills, and that She did a wonderful job converting our accounting systems from linked Excel spreadsheets to a software system that's designed for accountants. Unfortunately, she left for 2 reasons. Want to guess? She was working many more hours than she had bargained for and was underpaid, and she quit and went someplace else. Her successor, same thing. We promoted somebody who was her assistant, and that she left for another town locally after about 15 months, 18 months, for much more pay and fewer hours. And here we are again. Patty is leaving us for less hours and more pay. And so, lastly, we've been looking for her replacement, and after searching high and low, we have the total number of 0 applicants for the position. So that's troubling. So anybody thinks that we're doing something in the finance department just to please the people in the finance department is very, very misguided. I've just gone through a litany of people we've hired and left for the work we've done, the workload, and as well as the pay. Fortunately, you just met our new assistant treasurer. That was a part-time position before. It's now a full-time position. That's going to alleviate some of the time problems we have in the department. But it's extremely important that we have a full-time director of the finance department, and we pay this person appropriately, which will probably have to adjust the pay because we've had no applicants, as I said a minute ago. But there's been some scuttlebutt around town hall that, we're doing this just to please the employees of the department. And not true, as I just went through. And so we need a finance department that's, as every town does. And so we've been asking these people to do more work in a regularly scheduled meeting time frame than the workload is much more than the time allotted, and we've been underpaying these people. But thank you for staying for a year and a half, Patty. You're actually being underpaid and working more. You didn't hear all of that, by the way.
We changed it with this latest
So,
position.
But for those of you who think that this is, anyway. All right, next, tax classification rate hearing. Steve?
So I think in this
Tom?
case,
Flip a coin, one of you come up, or both.
since this is a public hearing, I think that we need to formally open the public hearing.
Yeah.
And it's so I'm formally opening the public hearing.
Oh, wait, where does it say that? Just like,
Well, it doesn't exactly say that, but I think,
I'm looking here,
Well, there's
where
a-
did I get the clue on that?
well, it says the Wenham Board of Selectmen will hold a hearing on
How
classification.
do I know it's yours?
Okay, thank you.
Oh, it's on the agenda.
I gotta go back to the agenda for that.
Yeah. Oh, and it's actually,
It's on your motion,
if you go to,
your yellow sheet.
Oh,
my
I see.
initials are up in the top.
You didn't tell me.
This one, Catherine. B. So, letter B, Catherine. So we have Tom Tanis, Chair of our Board of Assessors, is that right?
That's correct.
To walk us through a presentation and for the public hearing.
Steve, you come up here as well. Because you're the one that created these.
And
You made a mistake, it's your fault, not Tom's. That's what he's
And I
saying.
believe, just so that we're right about this, I believe we're supposed to read the posting, the public hearing notice. So I will do that. The Wenham Board of Selectmen will hold, I'm going to too many land use meetings, clearly. The Wenham Board of Selectmen will hold a hearing on classification of real estate for taxation purposes during the meeting on Tuesday, November 19th, 2019, at 6:30 PM at the Wenham Town Hall, 138 Main Street, Wenham, Mass. The purpose of this meeting is to determine whether the town shall establish separate tax rates for business and residential property owners or continue one rate for all classes. So that's the notice that was posted in the newspaper.
Salem News.
Salem News.
Okay.
Now we're ready. Take it away.
Down there.
Steve Ozahowski, our
Down there.
assistant.
The point of this is simply to go through the options that are available for the community regarding the tax rate. And if I may paraphrase Jack from years past, we've always had one classification, one rate, and there's absolutely no reason to change it. The whole purpose of the opening it up to having other rates is if you've got a diversity of property where there's a significant amount of commercial or industrial, where you create a different tax rate for them, and that leads to all kinds of discussion and so forth. So it's a small town. We have, I believe, 18 commercial properties. If we were to double the tax rate on those commercial properties, we would, the average taxpayer of a single-family residence might save $1 a year, something like that. So it makes no sense, so I'm just going to skim
And
through
we
this
drive those
stuff.
people out of town, perhaps, too.
Yes, that's the biggest danger.
Right.
So I'm just going to skim through this. Open space doesn't apply. The residential exemption, a community like Somerville or Brookline has a residential exemption because if you live in your three-family, you get a discount. We don't have that issue here. It's also big in places like Chatham on the Cape, let's say. You have a lot of rental properties. So again, this just explains, and this will be available on the website if anybody wants to read through it. It's just, it's a small town.
Yes.
Small commercial exemption, same thing. It doesn't really apply to us. We don't have enough commercial property to do anything about it, and this is just the detail on it. So what we would recommend, the Board of Assessors recommends that we have a rate of, one rate for all property, and that's the point of this meeting.
Tax factor of 1.
Factor of 1.
Yes.
Okay. Would you like a motion on that? I have it here. I move that the Board of Selectmen vote pursuant to MGL Chapter 40, Section 56, to adopt a tax factor of 1 for the town of Wenham for fiscal year 2020.
I'll second the motion. A roll call. John?
Yes.
Yes, Catherine?
Yes, all three. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much, sir.
You can go back and sit down or leave, whatever you wish.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So Anthony, the next item is the,
That's on me.
yeah, but
They're coming in, okay.
They're
you
here.
think you'd be better off to have Anthony take this since you're doing remotely, John? You're not here?
I was just going to read the motion and let Anthony step in
Okay,
to
please.
bring us up to speed.
Yeah, do that, please.
All right. I move that the Board of Selectmen, vote to approve the engineering services with Bayside Engineering, Inc., to provide 25% design
Just sleep quickly, doesn't it?
Could probably say.
and cost engineering for the rehab of the 3 intersections along Route 1A corridor based upon the alternative number 4A.
Okay.
So Anthony, if you could fill in any current details as to where this engineering firm is with us.
Sure. Thank you. So it's been some time, I think, since the residents of Wenham have talked about this. What's gone on since the last meeting in December was that the cost for to bring this up to the 25% design was $180,000. As the community should be well aware by now, that thanks to Representative Brad Hill and Senator Bruce Tarr, we got an earmark in the state budget for FY19 of $150,000, of which we contributed $30,000 of our Chapter 90 money towards this project. So all of the approvals have come back finally from MassDOT for both of those funding. So we had contacted Bayside, and Bruno is here, and he's going to go through a little presentation on just where we are and what the next step is, and looking for the board to execute the contract so they can begin work and get this project moving and get up to the 25% design so we can get in the queue and have this completed in 5 years. So,
Great.
Bruno?
It'll be a good reminder for all of us to
Yeah.
get us back
Bruno
in
and
the swing.
Norman are both from Stateside. Just hit the down arrow, Bruno.
Okay. Yes, my name is, Anthony said, my name is Bruno Campia, and I'm with Bayside Engineering, and I'm here with Norm Brown, who's the principal at Bayside Engineering. And we were selected as the design consultant for this project. I'll give just a very brief summary as to, I guess, how we got to this point, where we're at, and where we'll go from this point on. That's the agenda. I'll go over the project limits very briefly on the project history, and I'll cover the improvement alternatives that were evaluated, and then just also a review of the design option, and then provide an overview of the tasks and the timeline to complete the project. The project limits involve the 3 intersections of Cherry Street, Monument, and Arbor Street. The project limit will probably start somewhere several hundred feet south of Cherry, and it will include all of the roadway approximately 400 to 500 feet north of Arbor Street. The project limits will be set, based on the alignment. There's some turning lanes, and it depends on the taper and when we can get back to the existing. The town initiated this project by contacting Mass DOT to undertake a traffic study for improvements in the downtown area. MassDOT suggested to the town officials that they consult with the Metropolitan Area Planning Council, and they in turn, in coordination with the Central Transportation Planning staff, undertook a comprehensive study for the area, which was completed in 2018. The technical memorandum for the 3 intersections. The memorandum summarized the analyses that were performed, the improvement strategies for the whole corridor area. I do have if anybody wants any reading material, this is a complete report. That report. It's quite voluminous.
Yeah.
Yes, I think you do.
Yeah, we have it.
As I said, the report studied a number of different improvements, and they narrowed those down to several different options. The alternative one, signalize Arbor Street intersection, and only the Arbor Street intersection with Cherry Street and Monument Street. They would be reconstructed and upgraded with all the latest standards. However, they would remain stop sign controlled. The second option was to signalize Cherry Street intersection, and again, Monument Street and Arbor Street would be reconstructed, and they would be upgraded, but they would remain stop controlled. The third option was to signalize and coordinate Arbor Street and Monument Street intersections, and Cherry Street would be reconstructed, but it would remain stop controlled. Then there was alternate 4 and 4A, which was to signalize and coordinate Arbor Street intersection and Cherry Street intersection. And Monument would be stop controlled. There's an alternate 4B, but that's just a variation. The geometry it's a variation of 4A, but the only difference is the geometry actually is the same. It would just be that under alternate 4B, Monument would have left turns prohibited. Alternative 5 was to signalize and coordinate all 3 intersections. By the way, by coordinate, I mean that the 3 signals would be interconnected, so they operate in a synchronized manner. And then alternative 6 was to install a roundabout at Arbor Street and Cherry Street.
That was really popular. I recall.
I'm sure that was. So all of those options were evaluated based on different criteria, objectives, such as reduce traffic congestion, maintain desirable traffic movements, improve the town's emergency response, improve traffic operations, improve pedestrian access and safety, improve bicycle accommodations, reduce traffic conflicts, maintain convenient access to all traffic movements, minimize right-of-way impacts, because those are always in there, and they're very important, and also based on cost. Though all 7 actually, alternatives were evaluated, and the selected, as you can see, based on the high improvement up down to the high regression, actually, alternative 4A rates the best out of all of them. And that is the alternative which was selected by Mass DOT. It was recommended to the town. The town did approve it. And it's the alternative on which we've been retained to implement, and Mass DOT has approved the funding on that basis. This is the alternative, 4A. It's just a schematic. It's essentially 1 lane in each direction, but in the northbound direction, each of the intersections has a short left turn slot, so that through traffic can bypass any left turn movements. As indicated, Cherry Street and Arbor Street will be signalized. It's kind of difficult to see, but the red area here is there'll be a sidewalk on both sides of the street throughout the project limits. All of the pedestrian crossings will have accessible wheelchair ramps. The signalized intersection will have pedestrian crossings, and there will be a shoulder/bicycle lane on both sides also.
Before you move on, can you entertain questions?
Sure.
Go back to the last slide presentation. I come up Monument Street all the time, and so do a lot of other people. In fact, I saw about 15 cars backed up early tonight. So I was surprised that alternative 3 did not rate higher, which would be signalized according to Arbor Street. Arbor Street definitely needs it, and Monument Street. More people come up Monument Street than Cherry Street, taking particularly the left-hand turn, coming to Town Hall as opposed to a right-hand turn. So the problem is coming up Monument Street and taking a left to come down to Hamilton, Town Hall, any place down here. So I'm looking at your greens and reds and so forth. You can't see it on the board. I was surprised that, this refreshes my memory, that wasn't a superior alternative to 4A, since there's more traffic coming up Monument Street, in my opinion, than there is Cherry Street. Got any, I know you're not a Wenhamite, but you want to take a stab?
Well, it's not so much, and I'm not trying to get out of responding to your question. I think once I get into the project, I'll be more than happy to sort of answer that.
Is it too late? My question is beyond, it's too late to even bring it up because the state's already looked at the stuff, et cetera, is that right?
So on all the direction that was forwarded from the town was alternative 4A was the desired at the public hearing that was held last November, December. There was
My family wasn't there, though. I'm sorry. Just kidding. Go ahead.
So that was the recommendation from the state. So based on that that's the proposal that was going forward. And that's where we're at the point right now.
And I think, looking at this chart, I'm trying to remember the conversation, it had to do a lot between 3 and 4A with the fact that 4A was better at reducing the traffic conflicts at Cherry Monument intersection.
Well, that's what it says, but, you know,
I mean, you have to-
as somebody who does it all the time, and you too, Catherine.
Well, I actually come
Well,
up Cherry Street, so.
Cherry Street?
That's-
I come up Cherry Street too for that. It's much easier if you're coming to Town Hall, come up Cherry Street
Yeah.
and make your left turn rather than trying to go across 1A from Monument to Town Hall.
Yeah.
That's
Looking
the
at.
whole point.
look-
It's difficult to take a left-hand turn on Monument. That's the point.
So I don't do it. I've learned that it's better.
So
That's exactly why I'm bringing it up.
And quicker to go up Cherry Street.
Yeah, there will be.
So this is based on data that was collected.
If you look at the evaluation of 3 and 4A, you'll see that they're all very close.
Yeah, I do that.
The one difference is this line right here, reduce traffic conflicts at Cherry Monument intersection.
I read that.
And the difference there is the fact that I would say that 4A eliminates the left turn there. So that's one way of eliminating the conflict.
Wait a minute. Let me read that again.
No, 4A doesn't eliminate the
No,
left.
4B does.
4B does,
What happened?
4A just, there's a green, half green, and the other one's half red.
right.
But I'm unlike Harriet, I come up Monument Street and take a left, which is difficult, and she comes up Cherry, which is easier. I guess I'll have to come up Cherry from now on, I don't know.
It's quicker. I frequently, when I get to the intersection of Cherry and Monument at our end, and I have this little game, I'll watch another car go up Monument.
I do too.
And see who, and I always win by going up Cherry.
If I see 2 or 3 cars go
I
up
think-
Monument, I go up Cherry. If I don't see any cars go up, I go up
Monument. Can
Monument.
I ask you another question?
Yes. 3 signalizes Arbor and Monument, and 4 signalizes Cherry and Arbor.
Right.
Therefore, Monument is going to have, under this scenario, Monument should get the benefit of a number of gaps created by the 2 signalized intersections on either side.
Yes, it will. And both would, though. Both Cherry and Monument would. They both would benefit from that. Because the cars are coming up and taking a right-hand turn on Arbor Street, and it's hard to take a left-hand turn on either Cherry or on Monument because of the people coming out of Arbor and also coming down Main Street. Okay. Go ahead.
The other point you made was about in the center of town, there'd be bike lanes and sidewalks on both sides. Is there enough room considering the Civil War Memorial and fence that you can't touch?
Based on what we see right now, the answer is yes. We have what we call a typical cross-section of what the roadway should be, and in that area, I believe that there'll be some infringement, but the monument,
No, the fence
the fence,
is critical. It's historic and we spent a lot of money on it,
okay.
so you can't touch that.
There's a number of things that that could be done, and right now, see, everything right now, I mean, we haven't started any of that yet, so we don't know where we are with that until we start putting some lines on our plans and see what the widths are and exactly how much room we have.
I think we talked at the December hearing about the fact that this is in the center of the historic district. And you said you'd had some experience in what?
Well, we just got through doing 3 very tight intersections in Lowell, right down through an historic area, and one side was Kittredge Park, which obviously they did not want us to touch, and we had to do some extreme things over there in order, including building some little masonry wall similar to the ones you have out there right now in order to avoid both touching the park as well as some of the other properties.
So can I?
But as far as submitting to the, one of the things when we get started and we see where we're at, prior to the 25% submission, we do have to contact the historical.
If I can turn back the clock a little to remind folks, because of this, it's reminding myself. At the time that you were here last and presented the original, I've forgotten what it's called, but this proposal, there were a lot of people and there were a lot of comments, and so we got all of those, and I'm sure they're recorded somewhere. But at that time, the Board of Selectmen did recommend that we have, even before you begin your, is it 25% design, which we thought was going to happen a lot sooner, but whatever, that we have some very focus groups before the public hearing that we're required to have when you're done. But for that particular reason, there were certain people here who had sort of direct interests. One of them being the Historic District, some folks who live on Friend Court, some folks who live on Monument, who just we acknowledged that they had particular interests and we wanted to hear them, and they might help inform your work.
And Maples.
And the Maples. I have a list of them somewhere. So I'm just reminding people of that and suggesting that perhaps, if that still works, that we go back to the plan.
I believe we're aware that that it will probably take place when Mass DOT requires us to make the initial submission at 25. But at 25, the plans are at least 50 to 60% complete, because we have to investigate that far in order to be able to determine that what we're going to show is feasible to construct. So we have to actually develop the drawings that far. And I believe what we had agreed that we would make a public presentation when we got, not at the 25, but prior to the 25, when we were certain as to what the alignment was going to look like, and we actually had something that we could show what the impacts were going to be.
Okay, and that wouldn't be too late to change something that someone brought up as a big issue?
Because we would be at a point where we know what the impacts are, but we won't obviously have the design anywhere near complete, and we'll still have time to make any revisions before going to Mass DOT with the submission. I mean, we're not gonna submit anything that the town doesn't want.
Well, true. I guess I'm just trying to preempt a change very late in the game that would incur time and cost to, time for you and cost to us. And we had talked about it before, and we envisioned it a little bit differently, but the way you're suggesting, I think, is fine with me. We do have some specific.
Anytime sooner than that, we wouldn't be able to give you some definite answers or some definite impacts.
Okay.
So we have to get to that point.
Okay. So we'll wait to hear back.
Jackie has a question back there.
Oh.
Well, I just had a comment. I'm sorry, because Anthony wasn't here last year when we were, we had the public hearing and the process. So Catherine, just as a point of process, so as described by Bayside Engineering, the process that he just spoke to is the process that we discussed last year, where as we got closer to 25% design was when we would have those smaller community meetings with the Maples, the business community, the historic district, so that we actually had plans to show those groups, because I think the initial public hearing was very conceptual and had so many options, and so it was to give Bayside a little bit more time so that we could actually show them the potential and as discussed the impacts. So that was, as we had discussed last year, that it was closer to the 25% design process being completed, that we would have those smaller community focused groups.
Okay.
So that is on track from at least where we had discussed it last December.
Not exactly my recollection, but it makes sense, so I have no problem with
Yeah,
it.
I just wanted to clarify that.
She's wrong.
Please continue.
This is just a very quick overview of the tasks and the timeline. 2019, which is almost all over. We've, as stated earlier, essentially completed obtaining the funding, and the survey-based plans have been completed. Bayside Engineering completed those, I believe, by the end of the summer, whenever it was. We'll take a quick look shortly after this. Starting in year 2 and 3, 2020 and 2021, as we just said, we'll begin and complete the 25% design submission. And that is a long process, 8 to 12 months, we anticipate. Could go perhaps shorter, but should not go any longer than that. Upon completion of the submission, once given to Mass DOT, all of the various sections of Mass DOT will review it. Construction will review it, ADA, compliance, traffic, all the various, and we will be getting comments from all of those sections at Mass DOT. We'll need to take a look at those in detail, determine whether we agree, disagree. If we disagree, we can discuss that with them and make a final determination as to what a final design that we can agree with. And once that's done, that's when the design public hearing will take place. And once the design public hearings takes place, we'll go directly into the 75% design. That's just a further development of the plans. We anticipate those items will take year 2 and 3. Year 4, once we've made the 75% submission, Mass DOT will again review those documents and make comments, which we will need to address. And once we've addressed those and responded to all those comments, we go into the 100% PS&E. That's plan, specs, and estimate. Those are the contract documents that Mass DOT needs to bid the project out for construction. Once those are complete, Mass DOT gives a final review, one more review. And we anticipate that will be during that year 4, 2022. Once we have, Mass DOT has the PS&E, they will advertise the project, which we anticipate that would be the winter of 2022, and the beginning of 2023, so that by the spring of 2023, it's anticipated Mass DOT will award a contract, and then construction will begin during that spring, continue through that year, and will probably extend through the following construction season. And just to clear it up, I think we discussed this during our last meeting here. That does not mean for 18 months there's going to be a contractor working out there on a continuous basis. There'll be periods when he won't be doing much going on.
Or she.
And the other thing is that a lot of times they'll do a lot of the construction. One of the last things to go in will be the actual traffic signal equipment, because they get all the alignment, roadway, curbing, sidewalks, all of that constructed first. These are the base plans which I refer to that were completed by Bayside. And this is a detailed scale plan of everything that's out there, both above ground and underground. And this is what we, there's the Cherry Street, there's the monument area, and that's north of Arbor Street. There's, right now, that's 4 base plan, what we call base plans, because everything is developed from these. But from these, we develop construction documents which show everything that needs to be constructed. We do the traffic signal plans, there's grading plans, there's drainage plans, there's traffic management plans, there's details. By the time we get done, starting with these 4 sheets, I anticipate that the final set of contract documents will probably be, my guess is a minimum of 60, 70, 80 sheets of 2x3. The last thing is just a quick bar chart of the way we anticipate the 25% design. Right now, we're over here. That represents, I know you can't see it, the beginning of December of 2019. Hopefully, we can begin. It goes all the way to the end of May of 2021. We anticipate by the end of this year, submitting the 25%. There's the review period, and we anticipate that perhaps the design public hearing will take place somewhere near the end of May, beginning of June of 2021. Okay. So, very quick. Thanks, Bruno. Any other questions?
Questions from the board members?
I have no questions.
John, you have
Thank you, that was helpful.
But yeah, just back to, I think Catherine mentioned this, the public input. I can't emphasize that enough because we've had so much attention by the residents that have to access these roads and have lived with the chaos. So we need to take their consideration, their input into consideration.
Right. Very good.
Yep, great.
Thank you very much. No other
Thank you.
comments from the board?
Well,
Okay.
that's it. We did have a motion, though, right? Okay.
Yep.
Move the Board of Selectmen vote to, this is my motion. Before I move that the Board of Selectmen vote to approve the engineering services with Bayside Engineering, Inc. to provide 25% design plans and cost estimates for the rehabilitation of 3 intersections along Route 1A corridor based upon alternative 4A.
I'll second that. Roll call. John?
Aye.
Aye.
Catherine, yes.
Aye. Unanimous for, thank you
Can
very much,
actually
guys.
spend that money now.
That's it.
Yay. Thank you guys
Thank
so
you.
much for
Get
coming in.
signatures, and then I'll shoot them over to you.
Very good.
Look forward to working with you.
Thank you.
Meeting with the groups.
Thank you so much for
Thanks,
coming out
Thanks,
tonight.
Bruno. Thank you.
Thanks for waiting around for us.
Not a problem.
Okay. And this is me. The business, Finance Department. I'm going to read the motion. To Board of Selectmen move to approve the treasurer-collector job description, which is different than our present one, as amended, and place this said position in grade 6, salary range $65,578.66. Do we have to have pennies on this? These
Yeah.
things?
Yeah, we do, yeah.
Yeah.
We do.
Otherwise, our town accountant will be sad.
$81,973.32 with the compensation classification system for the town of Wenham non-union employees. That's the motion.
I'll second the motion.
This is, so we're revamping this, so the finance director is going, we're just going to have a treasurer collector as opposed to the finance director treasurer. Comments, John?
I'm all set. I've reviewed it, and I think it's the right thing to try at this point and see how it works.
Okay, all in favor?
Oh,
Aye.
may I just have a question first?
Yeah.
So this range that's proposed in here, we just talked about the fact that our salary ranges are somewhat difficult and we're having trouble getting applications. So is this salary range the range that's been advertised?
Yeah, probably insufficient, but
Well,
Right.
right,
So
so
this
that's
is-
my question.
So this is...
Should we be addressing that before we approve
Well,
it?
here's the current chart right here. So we have the finance director position. So by not having the finance director, treasurer collector, what we did is we moved the treasurer collector with the town accountant position. So the next slide would show that there now would be on par. And then according to the town bylaws, the finance director can come from one of two positions. It's either your town accountant or the town treasurer. So right now, we'd be appointing, what you did is Chris would be the interim. Now, to answer the question with that rate, we advertised at that rate right now, and we had total submissions of 1, and I would, concerning that we only have
Well,
1
that's
right
why I
now.
asked the
So
question.
it's a good question that I think we need to, a lot of the times, people submit the last week. So, we could have 20 applications roll in the last week. We may be coming back at another meeting and saying, we need to relook at this because we didn't get any. Or maybe we didn't get any that we feel are qualified. So this is a start. We have a couple more weeks left, or about, well, a week and a half left on the job posting, and we have to see what happens.
It was 0 yesterday, so we got 1 today?
We got 1.
So, I'm sorry, when is the deadline, the date of the deadline?
December 2nd, that week. So it's,
Okay. All right. I just, like I said, you said that you were concerned about that, and we're
Yeah,
approving
very.
Well, we
a
are.
range, so I guess we may have to be revisiting this at some later
That's
date.
what I
we
was
wanted to
intimating
start the
earlier.
process of at least throwing the advertisement out there and seeing what we got, and not delaying the process.
Sure, I
Patty's going to
understand.
be leaving. We do have the interim coming in for, 10 hours or so a week. Patty's going to be hanging on, coming in on Fridays. So we really need it's still going to take, even if we did get a bunch of qualified applicants, by the time we interview and they have to give notice, we're really not looking at somebody coming through until January. So
But Catherine's point and mine as well, this may be insufficient.
it may be insufficient,
Right.
yeah, absolutely.
And so please,
We may find.
bring it forward.
Financially,
Yeah.
yeah.
If you're not getting applications and you determine that the reason we're not getting applications is primarily due to our salary range, Jack and I agree anyway that we
Yeah,
should
this-
relook at the salary range, given our history.
This will certainly be on the agenda on December 3rd for an update.
Okay,
Okay,
so now I'm ready to vote. Sorry.
I've had a motion.
And it was seconded?
Yep. All in favor? John?
Aye.
Aye.
Catherine, yes.
Unanimous roll call vote, Catherine. Okay, let's see now.
Oh.
Okay, who's got this one? Probably you, Catherine.
Me. And I think, so this next item, agenda item is discussion and potential approval of the loan agreement between the Wenham Affordable Housing Trust and Harbor Light Community Partners, Inc. I think this can be a fairly short discussion, only because the Affordable Housing Trust has met a week or last Wednesday, I think, and had our second reading and discussion on this loan agreement between the trust and Harbor Light. And I'm going out on a limb here, but I believe unanimously approved it was slightly amended from the first reading, but has approved this loan agreement. So, given the fact that,
Why you go out on a limb? You don't need to go.
well, I don't remember whether it was unanimous, but I believe it was unanimous. I'm 99% sure
Okay.
that it was unanimous.
All right.
To approve the slightly amended, as I said, from our first reading, the Wenham Affordable Housing Trust. It was certainly a vast majority.
Overwhelmingly approved.
Overwhelmingly approved this,
Something like
the latest version, and thanks to Jackie and others who got some input and cleaned it up a little bit for us. So, the Wenham Affordable Housing Trust has signed, I think you actually we have the signed document in our
We do.
books, and I think it's fair to say that they would recommend that the Board of Selectmen approve it as written as well. So shall I make that motion?
Please.
Move that the Board of Selectmen approve the Affordable Housing Trust Fund loan agreement with Harbor Light Community Partners, Inc., as approved by the Wenham Affordable Housing Trust on November 12th, 2019.
I'll second that with a comment. This is the last leg, or at least the last leg of the so-called Maple Woods Harbor Light project. The executive director of Harbor Light basically said that he would only go forward with the so-called Maple Woods project if he received $1.2 million in funding from the town. At our town meeting last April, Based upon the CPC's recommendation, the town meeting approved $750,000 funding for Maple Woods. And this is the second leg of this, and that, did I say million? 1 million even? So that,
yeah.
I didn't say million.
Said
I think he wanted a million too.
Well, he said a minimum of $1 million.
Minimum of $1 million. And that, so this 250, which Catherine just mentioned that the Affordable Housing Trust, which she serves on, approved the other 250 after debate. So we now have, with the motion about to be approved by the Board of Selectmen, which all funding from the Affordable Housing Trust must be approved by the Board of Selectmen. Harbor Light and Mr. DeFranza has his 1 million minimum requested funds. So we'll be looking forward to hearing how he's going to proceed expeditiously, I hope, to go forward, because we're still at risk here for 40B. I want to say it. So anyway, John, do you agree?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so you vote yes?
Yes, I do.
And just a quick breaking news, I looked at my packet. The motion, these are from minutes of that meeting, the motion carried unanimously 5-0-0. So
Very
just,
good.
and
That's-
yes,
that's,
my vote
That's a
for
big change.
today is yes.
So it's a unanimous vote, roll call vote. John said yes, I say yes.
Catherine, yes.
Okay, unanimous of the Board of Selectmen. Good luck, Andrew. We'll be looking forward to hearing a progress report if you're watching on YouTube tomorrow, how you're going to proceed and with the timing. Other matters that may not have reasonably been anticipated by the chair. No, haven't gotten it. Okay, I move that we adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor? John?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Yes,
Roll call.
Catherine.
Okay. We're adjourned.